So, guys, have you ever wondered what it takes to build your business the right way so you avoid some of the biggest legal pitfalls? Sometimes I can talk. Legal pitfalls. Does the process of safeguarding your business sound so overwhelming that you haven't even started yet? Or perhaps you think that certain big business strategies don't apply to you. Well, in this presentation, Heather is going to break down the legal basics to help you more powerfully lead your business and make the right strategic decisions from the start. She's a warrior mama, a nature lover, and a dedicated attorney and legal coach for world-changing entrepreneurs. She's the founder of the legal website Warrior, which is an online business that provides legal education and support to information entrepreneurs, coaches, consultants, online educators, speakers, authors, all the people that are doing it around the US and the world. I've heard her presentation before at JVology, actually, which is an awesome event. And I was just blown away. So I'm so excited that she's here to speak.
Oh, thank you. It's so good to see you again, Joey. That feels like, a lot has happened in the world, and I'm sure for all of us since, you and I were last together, but it feels like yesterday in some ways. And then it also feels like 6 months ago.
Yeah, it feels like a totally, like you said, like there's that time and then it's a totally different world right now.
Yes. Like basically I got home from that, and here in Seattle, we went into quarantine.
Yeah, I remember thinking about you when that happened too.
It was really early for us. And so, yeah, life changed really quickly for me right after that event where you and I met. But I've really been looking forward to this and just wanting to check in. So how are you? How are you guys doing? We'll get started here in a minute, but.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we're good. We had to kind of roll with the punches and adapt like everybody else. But I'm here in Atlanta right now. I have a safe place where I'm staying. It's a big yard. I can walk around, but I'm still staying at home. I'm not around people. Yeah, there's just a lot, and I'm focusing on gratitude and creating and doing everything I can to be empowered in my life and to give to other people.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Well, I'm so honored to be here, and I look forward to sharing with anybody who gets to see this live or the recorded version.
Yeah, absolutely. And let me go ahead and ask you a couple questions before you get started on your official.
Perfect.
Yeah. And so can you tell us a bit about how you got started and who you serve?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am based in Seattle, and I've been practicing law here for about 18 years now. My journey into law was a little bit of a funny story because I never ever once thought I'd become a lawyer until I literally made the decision to go to law school. But starting the second business, which is how you and I met, the legal website Warrior, which is a secondary business to my legal practice, that happened because after 12 or 13 years of practicing law, I saw, and that was primarily in business and real estate, I saw that a whole segment of our small business community is not well served by the traditional legal market. Right? So the folks that I serve, what I call information entrepreneurs, coaches, consultants, online educators, speakers, authors, have a really hard time getting their legal needs met. And so I set about to create a second business that was essentially an alternative way to meet the legal needs of that audience. And it's just been such a great journey. The intersection of law and business for me is a really fun place to live because I love both of those things. So and then entrepreneurship is totally my heart. I have such a big heart for entrepreneurs. So.
Well, that's such an interesting combination. I know I'm really glad you're there to solve that problem because I know for me, that's not my strong suit. So just having somebody that I can reach out to that's experienced in that is it gives me a certain level of security especially when there's not a lot of security right now,
No, there's not. And law ends up being, it's one of those essential components of every business that is a successful business. And yet, especially for this marketplace, it tends to be really hard for folks to even just get the basic education that they need so that they can then make really strategic decisions for their business. So it's, I love what I do, and I get to work with phenomenal people and support folks who are building really tremendous things in the world. All of my clients are largely very conscious entrepreneurs, mission-driven entrepreneurs. They're up to things that are much bigger than themselves. So I love the space that I work in.
Yeah, that's why I love all our interesting speakers, everybody that I work with inside and outside of here is because they're so heart focused and really want to make a difference and serve other people,
Yes,
so that's
totally
part of something bigger.
Yep.
So why, I've heard your talk before.
Yeah.
So, and it was awesome, which is why you're here, right? So
Thank
why is
you.
legal support so hard for entrepreneurs to put in place in their business?
Yeah, so the barriers that I've noticed, and I talk regularly on this, there's lots of barriers to entry into the traditional legal marketplace. One, obviously, is cost. Most of the folks that I serve that are on kind of largely what is starts out as a solo entrepreneurial path, they might build small teams along the way, etc. But they don't start off with a business plan and a legal budget and like the things that a traditional like brick and mortar business would have in place. And so partly it's a sideways route into business generally. And then the other thing is that getting connected to an attorney that understands the market, understands their business model, understands what they're up to can be really challenging. I've talked to so many, dozens and dozens and dozens of entrepreneurs. I mean, I've talked to hundreds and thousands of entrepreneurs, but dozens of entrepreneurs who have said, I couldn't even find an attorney who understood my business, you know, and many, many others who have said, even if they understood some things about my business, they didn't understand all of my business, what I was doing and exactly what I needed. They might be able to help me with business formation, but none of the other stuff. Or they might be able to help me put a client service contract in place, but they know nothing about being online. Right. So for me, you know, just observing the gaps in the marketplace and seeing how many entrepreneurs didn't have a place to get the legal education that they needed, could, you know, had to pay very high cost to even connect with an attorney, have an initial consultation, decide like, could we work together? Do I even like you?
Right.
Right. So yeah, I mean, they're real obstacles in the marketplace. So I say that in part because I want people to understand that I understand that, which is why I've built a different business model, and that it's not your fault. It's not people's fault that they haven't gotten their legal needs met. There's very real reasons why that's a challenge in the marketplace.
That makes sense. And you kind of touched on like being able to having that communication, that connection with people, like working with people you like is so important. What do you love about your work?
Well, I mean, I love a couple things. I love the opportunity that I have to be creative in the way that I deliver solutions. And I've always been that way in the law. So I feel a little bit like outside of the norm and the traditional industry in that way. But, and part of it is I built my own business from the ground up. Like when I graduated law school, I started my own practice, and that was pretty unheard of at the time. So what I truly, truly love though, is being able to quickly help people put solutions in place, not only to avoid problems, but to fix problems. I mean, we'd rather avoid them than have to fix them, but the opportunity to be creative, help people really solve problems in a way that the general legal marketplace doesn't do. And, you know, it's the other thing I mentioned, getting to work with the folks who are mission driven, totally heart-centered, conscious entrepreneurs. It thrills me every day. I love my work.
That's so awesome. And with the theme of the summit, with people getting these tools to really get their businesses started or move it online or whatever they need to do and start driving traffic, I think it's so important to have somebody, you know, like you on their team so that they don't have to worry if not they're doing it right. They can just focus on implementing all this stuff and course
Totally.
correct, but they have somebody there to guide them. And
Yeah, well, and what I want for people, I've said this regularly too, is a rising tide lifts all boats, right? And I want the entrepreneurs that I serve to be successful. I want them to be successful now, and I want them to have longevity in their success. And to do that, you do have to have a certain amount of legal support. And, you know, to the extent that I can help create successful entrepreneurs in the marketplace who have the structure and the supports that they need, they can better support themselves, their families, their loved ones, their communities. They can give back to the world in ways that, you know, if people are not thriving in their business, they cannot do. So for me, the real joy is being able to support people to the levels of success that they want to achieve and really create a thriving business, like you say, so that they can be 100% in their business. They're not running around worrying about things and focusing a lot of energy elsewhere. They're really able to create and thrive within their business and then create resources for themselves and other people in the world.
And can you share for a minute, like what you're going to be presenting on today, and then take a minute and tell us about your gifts for our summit attendees?
Totally.
Upgrade to VIP, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I'm going to be walking through people today is, so I developed basically what I call my 5-bucket framework for business protection. And it's a way that I have found really simplifies the process of thinking about how you protect your business. And that, when people come to me with questions, they're all over the place. Obviously, the world of business is a big, wide open world. And from a legal perspective, there's a lot in there to be thinking about. So this gives people a framework, kind of a roadmap, if you will, for where they should be looking for certain kinds of protections, and gives them a way to think about how to approach protecting their business. So I love that framework. We'll be walking through that. I'm going to be doing a mini training specifically on the online component of business to do a quick introduction about what it takes to be online safely. And then the gifts, which I'll also review within the presentation as well, but quick introduction to the gifts. For people that are attending, I've got my 5 legal basics report. That's recently updated. I actually updated that right before the event that you and I attended. Nice. And so it looks totally different than it has in the past. It has a lot more information. It's really going to help people understand the legal landscape that exists in the US. People often, I feel like, operate in a bubble where they don't really have the knowledge that they need to understand the business landscape from a legal perspective. So this lays out a lot of statistics, a lot of numbers, a lot of education that's easy to consume. I did it in bite-sized pieces so that people can really get a quick glimpse of why they need certain supports, how to get started. I've got resources in there, including kind of a list of how things you need to be thinking about implementing in your business. And then at the very bottom of that report, I have some other free gifts, ways that they can connect with me, lots of great options for additional resources. For the VIP upgrade, if people choose to upgrade to VIP, I have included my Business Builder Basics Quick Start Guide. This is literally like a 9-page checklist that is designed to eliminate like 40 or 50 hours of research for people trying to figure out legally what they're supposed to do in their business. It's literally like checklist style. It's not going to apply to, obviously there's no one size fits all for businesses, so that's the caveat, but it is going to take a ton of the guesswork out, a ton of the online hunting and pecking around, trying to sort it out yourself, and really help you dial in on what might be next as far as a legal step in your business. So that I sell for $150 in my online offerings. It's normally part of a bundle, but the value is way more than that. It literally will save people so much time. So I'm super excited to be including that for your VIP folks.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So those are the questions I have for you.
Okay,
if you want to move into your presentation, I'll let you take it away.
Awesome. Let's do that. So I will click over to share screen. All right. So my presentation is usually this bite-sized legal basics. I can modify it, but the reason I call it bite-size is, one, what I want people to understand at the start of this is they don't need to be the legal expert themselves. It's my job to deliver the golden nuggets so that they can then know how to issue spot. They can see red flags coming. They can understand how to address them. So I want them to understand that my goal really is to deliver things in bite-sized pieces so that people feel like they can get their head around it and really take ownership of making decisions in their business. And I apologize, the chat for me went away, so I can't see the chat just in case people do. I wonder if it's hiding behind these controls.
And no worries. I'll also, if people put in questions, I'll leave a little bit of time at the end.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, for some reason when I share screen this happens, the chat goes away, and then I feel bad if I miss somebody typing in. So just let me know. Feel free to unmute and speak up. Okay. All right, so bite-sized legal basics for brilliant entrepreneurs. We're going to walk through how to protect your assets. Really quick at the start, I would like people to take just a minute and think about their why. So from a statistics perspective, less than 10% of the population ever become an entrepreneur, right? It's a relatively small percentage. And what I like for people to think about is when did you make the decision to become an entrepreneur? What did that look like? What led up to that? Because there's usually a story behind the decision to become an entrepreneur, right? So reconnect, take a moment and reconnect with your why. This is my why, right? And I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My dad is an entrepreneur. He's actually a phenomenal entrepreneur. I've seen him build multiple businesses. I've seen him, create some amazing things in the world. I've seen him go through really, really hard times. So, as kids, we got to watch the entire journey, and throughout our life now we have. But, for me personally, a big part of my why is right here: freedom, family, adventure, security, influence, change, joy, challenges, creativity, and legacy, right? And probably folks who are listening resonate with some, if not all of these words. Like, the reason we usually make the very hard decision, I usually ask when I'm speaking to a group, like, how many of you made the decision to become an entrepreneur because you thought it would be easy? And I think Jay Facette maybe joked around and raised his hand one time, but literally nobody raises their hand to that question, right? People don't think it's going to be easy. They think it's going to be worth it, right? So what makes it worth it? These things make it worth it. And for me personally, so, part of my backstory, and I'll keep it quick though, is that I lost my mom fairly young. My first year of law school, she was diagnosed with brain cancer, and she passed away right at the start of my second year of law school. And then not too long later, a handful of years later, my baby sister died in a car accident. And so I've had several big impacts like that in my life that are just a really powerful and devastating reminder that life is short. So I am just such a huge proponent that we all are here to live our brilliance and to really create what we are here to create in the world, and that we need to do that now. Like, you don't need to wait. You don't need to get experience. You don't need to do all the other things on your list that you think should come first, or that the world tells you should come first. Like, you're here to do the thing you're here to do. Like, do it now. Life is short. Do what matters. And that means do what matters to you. So I'm a big fan of quotes, but I'll speed through some of these. So as we mentioned early on, I'm based here in Seattle. I have both a traditional legal practice under Pearce Law PLLC, also started the second business, Legal Website Warrior, as a way to serve folks in the online space who are coaches, consultants, online educators, speakers, authors, right? Here's my family. Anybody who knows me knows that family comes first. I have two little people. Getting them here was my personal Mount Everest in the background of life. It was a really long, hard journey, but so grateful to have my little family. These are the folks that I serve. These are some of my clients. Obviously, I have a lot of other clients who there's not enough room on the page to show up here, but this will give people an idea of the things that people do in the world, the activities of the folks that I serve, right? They author books. They publish a lot of online content. They run podcasts. They provide a wide variety of expertise across a wide variety of areas, right? And generally, the common denominator is that first and foremost, all these folks and the other clients that I have are really information publishers. They're information creators in the world. We all, through our businesses in the information space, coaching, consulting, online education, speakers and authors, do very similar things. And they might have a variety of services really based around different ways that they deliver the same information, but it might be online, it might be speaking, it might be through writing. So there's various ways that we have to approach and think about how we protect an information business. All right. And a little of the backstory again is that being an entrepreneur and just being entrepreneurial myself. I mean, my dad had a chat with me when I was 5 about, saving money and doing all the things because he wasn't going to pay for our schooling. And I come from a family of 6 kids. And so, I took that very seriously, and from a young age was like raking lawns and getting newspaper routes and, asking neighbors for odd jobs and asking my dad for odd jobs. And so that route, that entrepreneurial path started very young for me. I was buying and selling cars by the time I was like 8 and 9. And anyways, that continued. I mean, that has just been the path of my life. And I think it's partly because my dad is such an entrepreneur, partly, like I said, because I was a serious kid and I took his talk pretty seriously. And I think also it's just my nature. So I have a big heart for entrepreneurship. I think that entrepreneurship is the path for changing the world. So I want people to be really clear that I think entrepreneurs are phenomenal people, and I think they are the change makers of the world. So that is a huge part of why I am so committed to protecting their businesses, protecting what they work so hard to build, because I know how hard they work. So we're going to quickly go through some basics about the legal landscape. I'm going to walk you through my 5-bucket framework. We're going to save a little bit of time for learning about the online essentials of being in business. And then I'll share again some information about the resources that we mentioned. So why does legal get put on the back burner, right? Is the traditional legal model broken? My clients and people that I speak with often relate to some of these phrases you see here. I'll do it later. That will never happen to me. I have the best clients. If a problem comes up, then I'll talk to a lawyer. I don't like lawyers, right? And I've had people tell me that right to my face. And, you know, there's lots of other reasons. We talked a little bit in the introductory conversation about the barriers to entry, the cost, the high cost to entrepreneurs of connecting with a lawyer and trying to find the right one, right? And also connecting with a lawyer who understands your business. So there's various reasons people don't get their legal needs met. But the question you need to be asking yourself is not whether you can afford it, whether you can afford that conversation, whether you can afford investing in legal support. The question is, what can you afford to lose in your business? Because certain legal mistakes can put your whole business on the line. And my job is to help protect you from that, right? So let's talk briefly. And people should know that my career, right up until creating my second business, really was like half litigation, half transactional work. And so I've seen firsthand the impact of litigation on people, on businesses. And it's partly why I work so hard to help businesses avoid litigation. Right? Single greatest trait of successful people is the process of accurate thinking. So I want people to have accurate thinking about the legal landscape. We're going to quickly run through some numbers. You don't need to take notes or write this down. This is in the free report. So you'll get these numbers if you sign up for that 5 legal basics report. But let's quickly walk through these just so that you have the background before I give the framework. Over 15 million lawsuits get filed every year in the United States. Of the civil lawsuits, 52% of those are against small businesses. And small businesses are any business in the US that makes less than $3 million a year, right? So most of us and most of my clients are considered in the small business range. That collectively costs us as small business owners between 230 and 260 billion with a B dollars per year. Okay, 60% of those claims are contracts-based claims, and 60% of all businesses face at least one significant legal event once every 2 years. If a lawsuit gets filed, on average, it takes 8.7 months to resolve if it does not go to litigation. If it goes to litigation, it takes on average 21.6 months to resolve. So, you know, the better part of 2 years, 22 months. That on average costs small businesses between $3,000 and $150,000 to resolve for one instance of litigation, with over 70% of them costing more than $10,000 to resolve, even if it's a frivolous lawsuit, even if they're able to jump in early and have conversations that will, you know, result in settlement or shut that down. So it's considerable effort. And the average contracts claim that does go to trial costs a small business $91,000. So my question to most clients is, can you afford a $91,000 contracts claim this year? Can your business afford that kind of a hit? Most small businesses, you know, that would be a significant dent. And again, you'll get those numbers if you sign up for that quick report. The cost of litigation is always driven by the most unreasonable party, right? I have said this since early on in my litigation experience and working with folks who, unfortunately I represent that are involved in litigation, and what they learn in a hurry is that they, no matter how reasonable they are, they do not get to control the litigation. It's controlled by the court schedule. It's partly controlled by the other party. If they're very unreasonable and they're filing a ton of motions and they're just being super litigious, my client doesn't get to control what that ends up costing them. Right? Business is risky. I also say this all the time. Business is risky, but we get to choose our protections, even if we don't get to choose our battles. We get to choose to proactively put things in place that are legal essentials to take care of our business and help it reduce risk, so that we're not just hanging wide open when it comes to risk. So let's walk through my 5-bucket framework, right? This is a way that people can think about in a pretty simple framework how to approach protecting their business. Usually when clients come to me, it's lots of questions like this. Where do I start? What's most important? I mean, they can boil right down to specific things, right? What's the right business structure? Do I own my domain? How do I know if I have IP? What if somebody steals my online stuff? What are my legal risks in the case of a data breach, right? When do I need a privacy policy and what should be included? What do I need to know about hiring people, working with independent contractors? What is the FTC? I've heard about the FTC. Can they really shut down your business? End of the day, most people don't know what they don't know when it comes to legal. And this is why I describe the traditional legal industry as being a black box legal model. You have to pay a lot to get inside the black box and even get just some basic essential education for your business. So that's in part why I'm so committed to providing that education up front. So these are the 5 buckets. We're going to be walking through this framework, right? And we'll be going through them in a specific order. There's a reason for the order. But here's the snapshot. If people who are watching want to take a screenshot, this is a helpful one because this will be the framework that we walk through. All right. The first bucket is business structure. This one, and please understand, this is kind of, it has to be by nature of the time that we have, basically an introduction to these topics. We could go much deeper into each of these buckets, but think of this as an introduction. We're going to be talking about why the buckets are important and what's inside of them. And then there's additional resources and trainings that people can get in regards to each of these buckets. But starting off, business structure is the first bucket, right? And the only way, what people need to understand about business structure, this is when you file official paperwork with your state that sets up your business as an LLC, a C Corp, right? You could create either one of those and also then make a tax election and create an S Corp. But you're not remaining a sole proprietor. Some people think, well, I registered a DBA, which is a doing business as, also called a fictitious trade name. You registered a DBA, but that does not set up a separate business structure. That's just letting the state identify you by the name that you're doing business under, right? As a sole proprietor, if you remain a sole proprietor, your business liability and your personal assets live in the same spot. You are considered one and the same with your business. So from the perspective of the IRS, from the perspective of the courts, even from the perspective of your clients, if there's any liability that you create through your business, that is not a good place to be. So the only way to separate out business liability from your personal assets is to create a formal business structure. And that says my business is over here, my personal life and my personal assets are over here. So that means if you have bank accounts, if you have retirement accounts, if you're in a community property state and your spouse has any assets, including retirement accounts, including vehicles or real estate, right? You don't want what you're doing in your business, even if you think the risk is low, you don't want to bring that risk into your personal life. So create a business structure. This is the foundational piece. It also will provide you tax advantages, and just from a mindset perspective, improves your likelihood of success. It's very significant. The next one, business contracts. This is a big bucket, right? So if we go back to the 5-bucket diagram, business contracts is a big bucket. And it's because I spend a lot of time with my clients in the contracts bucket. If you think of your business structure as a platform on which your business sits, it's like your business foundation. Think of your business itself and everything that you do in your business like a piece of machinery, like a big piece of equipment sitting on that foundation, right? And so this machinery, like everything that you do, all the ways that you deliver services, all the ways that you publish information, that you share your IP, this is all this big machine and gears and nuts and bolts. Like I'm a very visual person. That's how I think about a business. Your business contracts cover and protect that machinery. They protect all the things you're doing in your business, right? So they should cover every exchange of value. And that means if you're publishing something online, just on your general website, information that's accessible to the general public, that's an exchange of value. You should have terms in place for that. If you're collecting information, right, online, you should have that's your privacy policy. You should have terms in place for that. If you're obviously delivering your services, whether it's a one-on-one client or a group scenario, that's an exchange of value. You should have a contract in place for that. If you are hiring an independent contractor, right? Contract in place for that. If you are creating an affiliate program or creating affiliate relationships, you want an affiliate agreement in place for that, right? Basically, any way that you are growing your business, bringing in support, publishing information, anything that's an exchange of value, you should have legal terms in place that protect your intellectual property, define the relationship, provide appropriate limitations of liability for yourself. There's all many ways that contracts can help protect your business, right? And point number 2 here is that they really are about guiding and protecting business relationships as well. People often think of contracts as fences. They're not fences. They are containers. They help guide the business relationship, okay? And business contracts, finally, can be used to help protect your intellectual property. There's a little overlap because there's another bucket that we'll get to where we talk about IP. But business contracts, you can put terms in place, especially when you're selling things online, that let people know what they can do with your information and what they can't do with your information, right? Which is also your intellectual property. And so putting contractual terms in place can help you enforce those terms and then protect what it is that you're doing online so that people are not ripping it off. They're not duplicating it and publishing it elsewhere. They're not doing things that you don't want them to do with your IP. When it comes to intellectual property, people most often think of trademark registrations, copyright registrations, etc. That's great. And they should not forget about the power of business contracts. So big bucket. We could spend lots of time here. Just know that there's a lot to be done generally inside of this bucket. Where you should start, I always tell people, start with your moneymaker. Start by protecting what you're doing the most of in your business, whether it's providing a service, etc. Start there, and then you can stair step the rest of your needs. All right, next bucket, business insurance. We won't spend a lot of time here, but I want people to think about this bucket because business insurance protects against very specific kinds of risks that cannot be protected in other ways, right? So it really depends on what you're doing in your business. But think, if you have the visual of the platform, right, the foundation for your business, the machinery, which is your business, and then the insurance is kind of like padding around all of that, right? So you put contracts in place to protect what you're doing day to day in your business. Business insurance is like a little extra padding around the outside. Gives you additional peace of mind. Business insurance is also unique to your business, right? So in the United States, I think there's something like 13 different small business insurance policies available. My recommendation on this point is that you connect with an insurance broker, somebody who is not tied to a specific insurance product or a specific insurance provider. They know the market. They have access to the marketplace. They can help you bundle policies if you need several policies bundled together through certain providers, and they're going to have better pricing for you. But talk with an insurance broker. find out, they'll ask you a bunch of questions about your business to do a risk assessment and get you placed with very specific products. But remember, business insurance is unique to your business. So just like if you buy a home, you answer questions about like, do you have a swimming pool in the backyard? Do you have a trampoline? Do you own dangerous dogs? It's a little bit similar. They'll go through that evaluation with you in your business. And like I said, protects against specific kinds of risk that cannot be protected against in other ways. Bucket 4 is IP protection plan, right? This is often your largest business asset, but small business people tend to minimize this one. And understanding IP and taking the right steps to protect it provide long-term brand protection. There is no point in your business that is too early to begin thinking about IP, right? And it provides multiple strategies for protection, right? You've got contracts, you've got copyrights, you've got trademarks. There's some other things depending on what you're up to, but do not ignore your IP. Do an IP inventory. What courses have you created? What business names? What signature product or course names, right? And I provide additional services around that. But just understand you are creating IP if you're in the group of folks that I serve, and you need to have a plan in place for protecting that. Finally, last bucket, dispute resolution strategy. This is a bucket that people want to ignore, but what I want people to understand about this is, one, it's really about a communication strategy. Dispute resolution is almost entirely about how we communicate, how we create a consistent client experience from our marketing language and our early touches with the client and our business, to our sales language, to our enrollment calls, to our business contracts. We have opportunities all along the way to create a consistent client experience, right? And the more that we do that and minimize surprises to the client, we don't want to surprise our clients with something bad that they didn't expect. Good surprises can be good, but it's really about creating that consistent experience, consistent languaging, having business policies and contracts in place that help educate, right? All of this will improve your ability to handle internal and external disputes, handle them consistently, will save you time, energy, and resources. It's literally money in your pocket if you can do this well, especially if it helps you avoid litigation, right? And finally, drastically decreases your monetary and legal risks. So this is a bucket that people need to take seriously. There's lots of ways that I provide coaching and strategic assistance around this bucket and the others, but one thing I would recommend, one resource that lives in this bucket, is a book called Difficult Conversations. Every person in small business anywhere in the world should have this book. It's written by the folks who run Harvard's program on negotiation. They're brilliant. I've studied all of their writings, their books. I went and studied with them for a week in an advanced negotiation workshop. They're phenomenal. So everybody needs to get that book, Difficult Conversations. All right. We covered the 5 buckets and we did it quickly, but take a snapshot if you need of this slide: business structure, business contracts, business insurance, IP protection plan, dispute resolution strategy, right? You guys are awesome for hanging in there. If you don't treat your business like a business, nobody else will. So circling back to the beginning, the IRS won't, the courts won't if you end up in a lawsuit, right? If you don't treat your business like a business, your clients don't treat you like a business. One of my favorite things that happens for clients that work with me and get contracts in place, get some of this support taken care of, is they come back and report on how their clients are treating them differently, right? It's a real impact. Okay. You're presumed to know the law, right? And we'll go a little bit fast through some of this. Most people don't know the law in business, right? And our greatest challenge, including in business, is to make wise choices. So for folks that want to have access to the report that I mentioned that includes all those numbers about the litigation landscape, the legal landscape in the US, they should go here and opt in, www.legalwebsitewarrior.com/5legalbasics. And Legal Website Warrior is just how it sounds, right? legalwebsitewarrior.com/5legalbasics. That will be a great report that will get them started, will remind them of the legal landscape and help them with some additional resources. And then finally, let's do the quick online tutorial, and then we'll see if we have a couple minutes for questions, right? Biggest online mistakes. You guys, there's a lot. I'm just going to be honest. There's a lot of mistakes that people make online. Not complying with the CAN Spam Act, right? Violating privacy laws, not having their privacy policies up, engaging in copyright and IP infringement. This happens all the time, even when people don't intend to. It's just because they're ignorant. They don't know. Ignorant does not mean dumb. It just means they don't know. Making false claims and not providing disclosures, right? Using language that they shouldn't be using in their marketing materials. Transacting online sales and not having terms in place. Failing to implement legal documents correctly. There are best practices when it comes to doing online business and having your legal terms in place. And then not monitoring what others are doing on your behalf, whether it's an admin or a VA, whether it's a marketing agency, whether it's somebody running your Facebook ads, right? So there's a lot of ways that people get this wrong. Let's skip to this, right? Here's the online activities mini training. If you publish information, you need website terms and conditions, right? So if you're doing articles, blogs, video logs, right? If you're publishing information, providing advice or tips, have website terms and conditions in place that are well done. These will protect you. They'll protect your content. They'll have licensing language that tells people what they can and can't do with what you're publishing. Next step, this obviously we're cruising through this. If you're collecting any kind of data, even if you don't have an opt-in form yet, a lead magnet or a giveaway, but you've got Google Analytics turned on, you need to have a privacy policy in place for that. And if you're not restricting people by geography, you need to have a GDPR compliant privacy policy. Most people have heard of the GDPR by now, so I won't go there right now, but you need to have a solid privacy policy in place for your business. This is required by law. If you're transacting sales online, you need terms of purchase in place. The sales of your information, of your services, etc., exposes your IP, exposes your business to liability. So you need terms in place that are specific to the sale. People often think website terms are it. That's not it. You need terms of purchase specific to the sale. If you share information related to business or to business growth or income, you need an earnings and income disclaimer. Like if you're working with folks on increasing sales, increasing income, etc., anything involving money and finances, you should have an earnings and income disclaimer. Finally, if you have affiliate links or your own affiliate program, you should have an affiliate disclaimer or an affiliate agreement in place, depending on if you've got your own affiliate program. All right, it's a quick snapshot. A few of my clients, I mean, I love the folks that I work with at all levels. They're phenomenal folks. Here is a slide that will give you ways to connect with me, right? Via email, LinkedIn. If you want to schedule a one-on-one discovery call, you can just go to legalwebsitewarrior.com discovery. As a reminder, opt in to the report. And for those of you who are interested in saving literally like a week of your life, 40 or 50 hours, get the VIP upgrade. You will get access to my Business Builder Basics Quick Start Guide, which is a phenomenal tool to help you speed through your legal checklist. All right. I think that's it, Joey. Do we have any questions? I know we've got like 3 minutes.
I have tons of questions.
Bring it.
I don't even know where to start.
I know.
Yeah, so many different things. Well, I'm going to, guys, if you have questions, go ahead and enter them into the chat box. I just posted the link for the 5 legal basics.
There we go. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, man, like there really is so many questions. I don't know where to start. Okay, so I have several different businesses.
Yep.
I'm a copywriter, I'm a business coach, life coach, and then also have this company, Tech Leaders International.
Yeah.
So, yeah, with juggling, all of these have different things that I need to do, you know, like how do me, and I know a lot of entrepreneurs have their fingers in different things.
Yes.
What's the best strategy for get a handle on everything without just blowing up your phone all the time?
Totally. Well, so a couple things. One, across some of your businesses, the strategies will be very similar, right? So once you learn them once or do them once, it should be easier to implement across your other businesses. But two, I would say if you're a person with multiple businesses like Joey, I would also have the same advice for people that have one business. Start with your money maker. Where are you spending the most time? You could also start with the one that you feel like creates the most liability in your life. That's usually where you're spending the most time and doing the most work, serving the most clients. Start there and then stair step your legal needs from that. So that's where I spend a lot of time coaching people on this topic of like helping them put a legal roadmap in place for their business, looking at exactly what they're doing, and then saying, okay, prioritize this first, and then, you know, because you can't chew the elephant all at once. That's what I tell people as well. Right? So don't let it overwhelm you, but start with the business either where you're spending the most time or the activity where you're making the most money, and put some contracts in place around that, or put a business structure in place around that business if you haven't yet. Okay. But just choose a place to start, and usually it's where you're spending the most time.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. And,
yeah.
I'm assuming I know a little bit about structuring businesses, but it's all state related, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if I have a brick and mortar store, but I'm also doing business online, do I need to have like different things in place so that what's structured here is, if somebody's like receiving it in Las Vegas, you know, like the information?
Yeah. Got it. So, you know, the big answer is it depends. A lot of times if somebody has a brick and mortar store, they might be providing products, they might be providing services. It largely depends on what they're doing in that business. If it's really relatively the same, meaning that the online function of the business is to sell things that are happening in their online, or I mean, in their brick and mortar location, that can all be handled generally under the same business structure. If you've got different parts of your business though, so for example, I work with a lot of licensed professionals where they might have a brick and mortar location because they're providing therapy services, or like massage therapy, or something that is, you know, really requires a physical presence, but they're also doing what I call an information business online that's really separate from their licensed profession. They need to be setting up a second business. Okay. That's a totally different business, different business model. You do not want to bring the liability of an information or online business into your professional therapy business if they're truly separate.
Okay, that makes sense. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. I'm looking to see if we have any questions. Not right now. I think I still have tons of questions though.
Yeah, I know. This could be a very big conversation, which is why I at least try to provide the framework so that folks can start to digest it and look like at one bucket at a time. Like, okay, how am I doing here? Some people feel good after this presentation because they're like, I've taken care of a couple of the buckets, but you know, they still need to do some others. So hopefully people just have a place to start.
Yeah, and you do a great job of making it understandable. It's a massive topic, so yeah.
It's a big topic. Yeah, I really want people to feel confident in the framework and start to make, you know, solid decisions for themselves.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. It's good to see you again. I'll hop off. I'm sure you've got your next person lined up, but have a great day, and hope we get to connect again soon.
Absolutely. Cool.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks, Joey.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, guys.